Welcome back to Newslight. The governor of Delta State, Sheriff Oborowori, has dedicated his victory in the Supreme Court to God. While addressing the media in Abuja after the 5-member panel of the Apex Court affirmed his victory, Oborowori said his triumph meant that there were no winners, no losers. He commended the unwavering support of Deltans and his legal team and called on the opposition parties to join him in the task of developing the oil-rich state.
We give God the glory for the victory today. Now that the Supreme Court has affirmed me as the duly elected governor of Delta State, it is now my pleasure to invite all my opposition and other people in Delta State to join me and to move Delta State forward in line with my more agenda. Well, I call all of them to join hand with me so that we can move Delta State forward. Because Delta State is one, we are united. And once we are united, Delta State will continue to prosper in line with my more agenda. So we want unity, we want peace in the state. Okay, like the more agenda stands for meaningful development and opportunity for all Deltans. And we're going to do a lot of reforms and also enhance peace and security. I commend the judiciary for doing a very good job, and also the team of my lawyers and Deltans for all their support.
Delta State Governor Oborowori there. Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang has thanked President Bola Tinubu for upholding democracy during his legal battle. Governor Mutfwang visited Tinubu at the presidential villa and said the president exercised restraint and did not bow to pressure of people who wanted to pervert justice. Last week, the Supreme Court affirmed Mutfwang as Plateau State Governor, overturning the decision of the Court of Appeal to void his election. Regarding the State House of Assembly, he said discussions are ongoing to address the ruling's implications.
The Nigerian president is a powerful president, and if he does not exercise restraint in the exercise of his powers, he can intrude into the judicial arena, and the judiciary will not be allowed to perform its functions. In my own case and in several others, I'm sure we can attest to the fact that Mr. President allowed the judiciary to perform its functions as it should, thereby guaranteeing its independence. I therefore must come to thank him for exercising that restraint, because those who wanted to pervert justice also brought tremendous pressure on him to see how he could interfere.
Well, Governor Mutfwang is not the only one who's thanked President Tinubu after his victory at the Supreme Court. Even Labour Party Governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, did same. Other victors have also expressed gratitude to the president. The judiciary, as one of the 3 arms of government, is supposed to be independent. Analysts are saying thanking the president is unnecessary.
All right, let's bring in lawyer Liborous Oshoma, and let's get your view about all of this. Thank you so much. Good to see you on Newsnight tonight.
My pleasure.
So everybody is thanking, let's not say everybody, all the winners at the Supreme Court, they're thanking President Tinubu for not interfering. Is it an anomaly? I asked the governor of Nasarawa State then, said, well, pretty much nothing wrong with it, that from time to time, even beyond the elections, people do go to the president. But this is a special case.
Yeah, but I like the fact that the governor of Delta State thanked his legal team, and
yes, also thank God.
Thanked the people of Delta State for their steadfastness, rather than this hurry thanking of president. What this basically tells me is that there are unseen hands, like the governor of Plateau State has said, that the president of Nigeria is very powerful and he can interfere. And Nigerians are so helpless that even when the president interferes brazenly, and Nigerians can't do anything. And that also the governors interfere. And so, because they all interfere, they know when the president does not interfere. So that is why they now come to thank him for not interfering. Because for me, this is a distinct arm of government. It is bad enough that after election, we still wait for election. When I mean after election, we wait for election. Because for me, those 5 states, today is their election day. Because the results at the Supreme Court could have gone in that way. Right. So today is the election day. So after the election by the people, they still wait for election by the court. So it is bad enough that we find ourselves in that position. And now we are also adding that, thanking president. What that does for me is, cloak the president in the powers that the constitution has not donated to him. It is an aberration to even say that the president could interfere in a matter that is at the highest court. It stands logic on its head when people, outside hear that you're going to thank a president for not interfering. No matter the pressure, it shouldn't even be, on top of the table. It shouldn't be a subject for discussion that there should be interference or people putting pressure. But unfortunately, Nigeria is what it is, where people interfere in processes like this, brazenly, and still boast about it. We've seen a situation where a serving senator, stood on the floor of the hallowed chambers to say that he knows how he has had to disturb his wife, who is a senior judge, over matters that are before her court. So against that backdrop, it is not only the president that is interfering, the governors are interfering, House of Assembly members are interfering, senators and House of Rep members are interfering. That is why in Edo State, for example, you had a matter involving non-inauguration of about 9 members of the State House of Assembly. That matter passed through the courts of about 7 judges, and it was not heard for 1 day, all through 4 years. And so, with all of this, thank you. The only conclusion I can draw why that matter did not go beyond that point is that there were interference from the executive. And that's what these governors are telling us now.
Well, it's a shame that this is what it is. But again, we asked the Governor Sule what this would mean, and we've seen Governor Sheriff and the others, they're all saying that this, as you said, this is the election of the people. Does that also imply, or is it indicative that since after the last election of 2023, there hasn't been pretty much that they've been doing? They've been quite busy.
In terms of governance, right?
Yes, in terms of governance, because I like to look at that.
Yeah, like I told you, today, like last Friday, is the re-election day in the states, whether we like it or not. Like in Nasarawa State, there's been this palpable tension. If you visited Lafia before now, there's been this silence. You could feel it in the air, that there's basically nothing going on. Everybody's just waiting for what the Supreme Court would say. And so that's why you see all the governors troop into Abuja, as if the election is holding at the Supreme Court today. So we have to go know what the court will say. The same thing is happening today. And so, even in Delta State, you could see the governor, initiate construction of roads and try to move as he could. But I can tell you that they will also exercise some restraint. And why the supporters also, the social media today, in those states are agog, because today is like the election in those states. And it shouldn't be. All of this thanks to the way and manner INEC had consistently conducted election here, and also the attitude of politicians to wanting to consistently sell hope where there is none. A situation where you win 4 local governments out of 18 local government, and then you still say that I won the election.
And that brings me to my next question. I mean, 14 state judgments by the Supreme Court in 2 weeks. And on no account, I mean, in no situation did the Supreme Court actually remove any of the the governors.
You still have some.
Well, we're still waiting for Rivers State. That's
so. But
what does that in itself? What does it tell you? Is there a power of incumbency factor on the one hand, and isn't this? We've been talking about the overburdened situation.
Supreme Court.
Of the Supreme Court.
You see, if you look at before now, the Electoral Act also didn't help matters. And thanks to amendments that had also put the powers of who can actually approach the courts, domicile it in the hands of participants in the primaries. And then also a lot of matters that were hitherto, post-election matters have now been pushed down the realm of pre-election matters. So once you miss it at that level, there's no need coming to bother the court with all of those issues that would have been taken care of at the pre-election stage. So against all of this backdrop, I think also the court is trying to hold back itself from interfering. This brings us to interference again. Interfering in the outcome or the will and wishes of the people, because democracy is about the people. Right. It's not about the courts. And if you look at most of the cases, apart from a few, it was all about technical issues, the qualification, party membership, and all what's not.
I think it's okay for us to have an example, if you say, apart from the few, that any state you want to mention.
Yes. Okay. I would give you Delta State matter, for example. Before the election, the issue of qualification was seriously and severally, contested at the court up to the Supreme Court level, and the Supreme Court ruled on that. And at the courts, at the post-election level, it was no longer a matter of qualification. It was a case of elections that had been conducted. And you now begin to ask yourself, that's why I give you an example with the local government, numbers of local government. If election is about the case of majority rule, why hang on tenaciously to numbers that will not add up? And so you get to court, you're scratching at straws, looking for any and everything to consistently hold on your matter up to Supreme Court, and then wait till after Supreme Court to say you are congratulating the opponent. And then you take the case of Lagos State also. Lagos State, for example, it wasn't about the numbers. It was a case of, the deputy governor, the deputy governor, took an oath of allegiance to another country. Took an oath of allegiance. The governor's certificate and the name on the certificate, and all of those issues that played up before in Bayelsa, the case of Bayelsa. It wasn't about the numbers, because the margin of lead was too wide. And so you now begin to look for all those issues that ordinarily should form pre-election matter. The case of Abia, it was, Section 77 of the Electoral Act. This man did not join the party 30 days before the primaries. His name is not on the register. Also, in the case of Kano, it was, he's not a member of the party, and then the courts on its own sat down in the comfort of their room to begin to look at the ballot papers that had stamped or that didn't have stamp, despite the clear provisions of Section 63 of the Electoral Act. So when you look at all of these cases, you now begin to ask yourself, these are not issues that ordinarily should go to Supreme Court.
So this outcome now with the Supreme Court, will it send any kind of message, for, to those who may want to waste the time of the courts going forward?
I think what it should have done would be, there's no need bringing similar matters. But unfortunately, my worry and my fear is the fact that consistently the court had ruled on these same issues over time about politicians as a way of selling hope to their supporters. Because if you don't go to court, the tendency that your supporters will think that you have been compromised will be very high. And so they want to go to court, even when in court they are not asking that they be declared winner, but just disqualify the candidate and make me a winner. They're not looking at the numbers. And so you hear them say, but here they tell their supporters, we're going to claim our mandates. Well, and so there's high hope despite the fact that what is in the court processes is different. But quickly, permit me to, because I started with the issue of Delta, I also would say that for Delta State, I like the fact that the governor has said, we thank the people. And the idea here is the fact that before the election, you listen, I don't know if you listen to Cairo Jubu, who said that the politicians should look at election as a process to carry everybody along, because the governor was talking about an all-inclusion, all-inclusive. Even Sule talked to the governor, Sule talked about all-inclusivity. Before election, parties should try as much as they can to carry everybody along. The APC in Delta State was highly factionalized by the candidate of the APC. And so he also reflected in the vote. And the people in Delta State also felt that every project he attracted to Delta were domiciled in Orogun, his community, as Deputy Senate President. So all of these were what actually affected the outcome of the election. And so chasing shadows at the Supreme Court shouldn't have been in the first place.
So in the first place, we shouldn't put the blame on the judiciary. We should say first, blame the politicians.
Blame the politicians because
who's left grassroots politics.
Exactly.
Okay, I think it's a fine place for us to leave it here. Always a delight. I do hope that you should even move to Abuja.
I'm working on it.
Liborous Oshoma, legal practitioner, and thank you for your time.